Hello there, it's time for another Looney Tunes DVD review, straight from the bargain baskets of your local supermarket. Last time, we had the best of Bugs Bunny. This time it's the turn of Daffy Duck, although this DVD is also known as the best of Daffy and Porky. This was also included as the second disc in the Looney Tunes Golden Collection, Volume 1. So, a bit of history first. Porky Pig was the very first Warner Brothers cartoon character to draw audiences based on his popularity, and starred in many solo cartoons throughout the 1930s and early 1940s. However, the debut appearance of Daffy Duck in Porky's Duck Hunt in 1937 represented a changing of the guard to more rather screwball characters, and eventually Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny would begin to overtake Porky in terms of popularity. However, the pairing of Daffy and Porky was such a successful one that the pair stayed together for many years afterwards, although Daffy would in later years be partnered up with Bugs Bunny instead, so popular had the character now become at that point. Anyway, like the Bugs Bunny DVD, there are 14 hilarious cartoons on this disc. We'll go through each one in turn, although this review will still be made up of stills rather than footage due to Warner Brothers tend to slap on the old copyright infringement messages on YouTube videos. As well as the 14 cartoons, there's also a number of bonus features, giving you all the information you ever wanted to know about your favourite duck and pig combination, but were too afraid to ask. These features include audio commentaries on some of the cartoons, stills gallery, and a number of behind-the-scenes featurettes. It's not quite as many features as what the Bugs Bunny DVD had, but it's still a decent selection nevertheless. The cartoons featured here are a good selection, although there are a couple of Porky Pig ones that are somewhat surreal and look a little out of place here. We'll come on to those in a moment. It's a shame that their original appearance together in Porky's Duck Hunt wasn't included on this disc, or indeed Robin Hood Daffy. But at least the cartoons featured here are all uncut and shown in full. Uncut, you say? Why would a cartoon be censored? Ah, well, we'll come on to that at some point too. So, these are the episodes featured on the disc. First of all, we have Duck Amuck, where Daffy is teased by the animator of his own cartoon. This mystery animator constantly alters the setting, soundtrack, and even Daffy himself, much to the little black duck's annoyance. Finally, when Daffy demands to know who is responsible for these changes, the camera pulls back to reveal that the animator is none other than Bugs Bunny himself. Duck Amuck is widely regarded as a classic of filmmaking, and in 1999 the cartoon was actually selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. In 1994 it was voted number 2 out of the greatest 50 cartoons of all time by members of the animation field, losing out only to What's Opera Doc at the number 1 spot. Which makes me wonder even more why that particular cartoon wasn't featured on Bugs Bunny's disc. We then switch over to Porky Pig for Dough for the Dodo, where Porky is trying to trap the last living dodo in existence, but ends up going on a journey that borders on the surreal. It certainly suggests that the animators of Warner Brothers may have been on some rather interesting substances during the 50s and 60s. Drip Along Daffy is next, which teams both Daffy and Porky together in the roles of dashing hero and humble sidekick in a western picture. Although this cartoon manages to spoof every western cliché ever done, in the end it's actually Porky that takes matters into his own hands and ends up defeating the villain, which would be a running gag throughout his pairing with Daffy. Scaredy was part of a trilogy of cartoons where Porky and Sylvester would be paired together as a traveller and his pet cat. In this cartoon, Sylvester is constantly saving his master's life from homicidal mice or other dangers, which Porky remains blissfully unaware of. If anything, Porky only ends up getting angry with his loyal cat, as Sylvester's daring rescue attempts keep getting Porky woken up from his sleep. This cartoon would usually be shown heavily cut whenever it was aired on television, as Sylvester seemingly attempts to commit suicide at one point. However, this DVD shows the cartoon in its full uncut form. You certainly won't see this on Cartoon Network. The Ducksters sees Porky Pig as the unfortunate contestant on a quiz show called Truth or Ah! Which is hosted by Daffy Duck. Daffy takes great pleasure in dishing out certain penalties to Porky when he's unable to answer a question due to his stutter. In the end, Porky wins the huge jackpot and uses the prize money to buy the network that the programme is aired on, effectively making him Daffy's boss. Porky then subjects Daffy to the same punishment he received. Like a lot of these cartoons, a lot of the violence would be cut down whenever the cartoon was shown on television. In particular, one scene where Daffy asks Porky if he'd like to continue with the game, to which an audience member shouts, "You'll be sorry!" prompting Daffy to shoot the man dead. A bit harsh, methinks. In the Scarlet Pumpernickel, Daffy is desperate to lead a part in a serious role, having grown tired of doing nothing but comedy. To this end, he has written an elaborate screenplay in which he stars as an Errol Flynn type hero. In fact, Daffy refers to Flynn several times throughout the cartoon. Will the Pumpernickel get his girl? And how many speech impediments can Warner Brothers fit into one cartoon? Not only does this cartoon have Daffy Duck and Porky Pig in it, but also Sylvester. Not to mention Elmer Fudd and Henry Hawk making cameo appearances. Once again, this is another cartoon that has a character shooting themselves in the head. Again, leading to heavy editing for television. In Yankee Doodle Daffy, Porky is trying to get away on a plane and escape to the golf course. But Daffy Duck, agent of the stars, is determined to show off his new prodigy. Whatever it takes. Porky Chops pits our piggy pal against a wisecracking squirrel who looks like he could have been an early prototype design for Bugs Bunny, as he shares many of that wascally wabbit's trademarks. In the end, however, both Porky and the squirrel end up annoying a rather angry brown bear. Wearing of the Grin was Porky's last solo appearance, as afterwards he would only appear in cartoons alongside other characters, such as Daffy or Sylvester. In this one, Porky encounters a couple of mischievous leprechauns who follow every Irish stereotype in the book you can think of. Like Doe for the Dodo, this ends up becoming a very surreal looking cartoon. Deduce, you say, casts Daffy as Dorlock Holmes, with Porky as his assistant, Watkins, attempting to locate and arrest a dangerous criminal, the Shropshire Slasher. Again, like in their cowboy adventure together, Daffy is supposed to be the hero here, but just ends up getting the stuffing beaten out of him, whilst Porky is not only able to get the slasher to divulge his identity, but also persuades him to peacefully turn himself in to the police. And at which school did Dorlock Holmes learn to become a detective? Elementary, my dear Watkins. Boobs in the Wood might have a rather rude sounding title, but here Porky just wants to relax during his camping trip in the woods. Of course, a certain little black duck isn't going to let him. Daffy constantly plays several different characters throughout the cartoon to tease and annoy Porky, while all he wants to do is try a bit of fishing or painting. One character in particular that Daffy plays is Pocahontas, which led to the cartoon getting heavily cut whenever it was usually shown on television. Not to mention the part at the end where Daffy is being choked by Porky's own car engine. In Golden Yeggs, Porky finds a golden egg in his chicken house and is tricked into believing that Daffy laid it. It was in fact one of the geese that laid it, but this goose is no fool. He knows what happened to the goose that laid the golden egg. A reference to Aesop's fables, no doubt. Daffy attracts a lot of fame and attention, which he enjoys, but then a certain short-statured gangster named Rocky decides that he wants Daffy for himself. Daffy keeps trying to stall the gangsters for time because he knows that he can't really lay a golden egg, but eventually he actually manages to lay one in sheer fear from getting a gun pointed at his head. Again, this is yet another cartoon that was cut because someone got shot in the head. Notice a reoccurring pattern here. Also, when this cartoon was featured during the Looney Bugs Bunny movie, there was an extra section put in where Bugs and the police suddenly burst in and arrest Rocky and his gang, but only after poor Daffy has laid several dozen more eggs in order to fill up some empty egg cartons that Rocky has provided. Ouch! Rabbit Fire is next, an absolute classic cartoon, and it's the first time that Daffy Duck appears alongside Bugs Bunny. Daffy had become a very popular character by this point, and although he still remained a screwball character, he would now also become the foil for Bugs' jokes. The teaming up of Bugs and Daffy together against Elmer Fudd would then lead on to a trilogy of cartoons, including Rabbit Seasoning, which was featured on the Bugs Bunny DVD, along with Run Rabbit Run. The Duck Season, Rabbit Season argument from this short became one of the most notable references of the entire Looney Tunes franchise. It is even adapted into the movie Looney Tunes Back in Action. And of course, at the end of the cartoon, Bugs and Daffy continue to pull off the signs to alternatively reveal it's Duck Season or Rabbit Season, until they hit a final sign, proclaiming it to be Elmer Season. Ha! finally, we finish with one of my favourite Daffy and Porky pairings. Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century! A spoof of science fiction serials from the 1930s, such as Flash Gordon and, of course, Buck Rogers. Daffy is the brash, egomaniacal hero of the picture, with Porky Pig as his eager young space cadet, and Marvin the Martian as his nemesis. Both Dodgers and Marvin want to claim the mysterious Planet X, in the name of their own planet, thanks to the cunning use of flags. But this then leads on to a battle of wits, not to mention various destructive forms of weaponry, most of which hilariously tend to backfire on Dodgers. And, when the smoke is cleared, there isn't really much of Planet X left to claim. So, that's it for the best of Daffy and Porky. Again, I do feel that some of the Porky Pig shots are somewhat surreal and look a little out of place here. Those really should have been saved for the separate Best of Porky Pig compilation, along with the ones where he appears alongside Sylvester. Again, I feel that their original appearance together in Porky's Duck Hunt should have been featured on this disc as well, alongside Robin Hood Daffy, which is hilarious. To be honest, Daffy is such a good character to bounce another against. There should really be a Best of Bugs and Daffy DVD out there to mark this. This is another great compilation of classic cartoons that me and my kids love to watch together. So this, along with the Best of Bugs Bunny, can't be recommended highly enough. We've also got the Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote, Speedy Gonzales, Taz, and indeed the separate Porky Pig DVD from this collection too. Not to mention one of the Tom and Jerry ones, and a couple of DVD volumes called Looney Tunes All-Stars, which are actually the two other discs that go with the Best of Bugs Bunny and the Best of Daffy and Porky in the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 1 box set. I'll get round to reviewing some of these other DVDs at some point. If you've got a request for one of these in particular to get the review treatment, then please leave some comments below. The Big Daddy D will give the Best of Daffy and Porky a resounding thumbs up, folks. And if you don't agree, then you're despicable.